Welcome to Leading Voices in Federal Contract Management, a series on Federal News Network featuring industry experts diving deep into all things pertinent to managing contracts. I'm Vanessa Roberts, and today I'm talking with Sue Yang. She's Chief Contracts Officer at Peraton. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you so much for having me today, Vanessa.
I'm super excited to talk to you about this because I think the topic's actually fascinating, and the role of contracts management is actually fundamental in every large business that works with the federal government. So before we get going though, tell us a little bit about your own journey in this profession and sort of how you got to where you are today.
So Vanessa, I really love that you start off with that question because it allows me to talk a little bit about taking a leap of faith, taking chances, and also seeing the potential in people. So my journey into contracts management definitely wasn't charted out. I come from a family of, a rather blue-collar family. We ran a small business, a restaurant growing up, and in a small business setting like that, as a part of the family, I had to help out a lot, to include being called in at my parents' whims to help out with anything. And but the fortuitous part about that is throughout that process, I met a wonderful patron who happened to be a vice president at a small business 8A company. And he watched me grow up over the years, always took an interest in me as a person, always remembering when he stopped in to get his carry out on every Friday evening to say, Sue, are you taking your schooling seriously? And I said, yes, of course, Lonnie. And so I graduated, when he learned that I was graduating from American University, he was like, Sue, do you have a job lined up yet? I was like, well, Lonnie, I'm floating my resume. I've always worked, so I'll figure something out. He's like, come work for me. And so I took that leap of faith and joined him as a contracts assistant at his 8A company, and really started learning from that point in time the world of federal government contracting. And I was very strategically actually placed right outside of his office. And I would be amazed. I mean, he would negotiate collective bargaining agreements, be on the phone with our clients. So a lot was learned that way. And so hence my journey into contracts management, and it's, no looking back since there.
And you were able to learn so much out the gate that way.
Yes, yes.
You got to see all of it up close and probably be involved in a lot of it too.
Yes, I mean, that was the amazing part about starting off at an 8A, which is a small company, is everyone does a little bit everything. Some days we were over at Kinko's when Kinko's was still around,
right.
And we were producing proposals there and stuffing binders in order to do the submission. Next day could be I'm online updating our GSA schedule catalogs to administering the actual contract. So it definitely was a great entree into federal government contracting because it definitely allowed me to handle the cradle to grave and really understand the full spectrum.
Right. Well, that's that Kinko's reference, which I kind of know what that is. I'm teeing my age here, but it's kind of a good actually segue into the next question, which is really wondering if you could talk a little bit about Peraton's teams, the processes, the technology, and kind of how that has evolved over time, because we're a long way from stuffing all those pages into binders and delivering them, hand delivering them to agencies, right?
Absolutely. It's been actually a really remarkable journey, exciting, sometimes really, really challenging during the process, but it really started about 5 years ago. And at that time, 5 years ago, when Peraton, as we know it today, was divested from a larger enterprise, Harris Corporation. And in a very short time frame, we had to stand up our own contract processes, systems, tools, strategy, and do that while making sure that nothing fell through the cracks from the foremost goal, which is to support our customers and make sure the missions are well attended to. But from the get-go, I had a mindset that we would have a continuous improvement process through this, and hence why from a Peraton contracts perspective, we are actually part of our corporate ISO program. And that allows us to continuously get an independent surveillance, whether it's from our internal team, external surveillance team, to really ensure that what we have in place really is suitable for the business outcomes as well as supporting our customer missions.
Right.
Yeah, so it's been an exciting journey, and really in 2021, a couple of great things actually happened. We made 2 major acquisitions, and that just in a very short time frame propelled us from an enterprise of about $1 billion to where we are today as a top-tier national security firm at $7 billion in revenue.
Which is speedy.
Yes, it happened very quickly, very, very quickly in the short time frame of a couple months. And as a result of that, I really wanted my team to really take a step back and do some evaluation, reevaluation, make sure that what we did have was best in class. From the technologies that we use to manage our contracts, to the standard operating processes, to how we train our people, the full gamut. And coming out of that process, I really truly believe today that we have a very mature cradle-to-grave system. Obviously, with anything of this sort, it's a continuous improvement as the world around us changes, but we've come a long way in the 5 years since.
So I just wanted to follow up on something
Sure.
there. You talked about mergers and acquisitions and how much that sped growth for you, but that's a huge challenge for contracts organizations, right? And managing that across the integration of bringing in new teams and new technology sometimes, right?
Absolutely. It is a lot of moving parts at the same time. And so the way that I looked at it during this integration process is you've got the people, the systems, and the contracts. And so from a people perspective, we definitely were bringing together 3 antecedent companies that all, of course, had their culture, right, in terms of the longevity of those cultures. So we really had to find a way to ensure that everyone felt welcome as this new One Peraton, and really from day one to really start instilling the One Peraton model. And so we start on very early, very deliberately, by not using the names in our internal vernacular, our sentences and discussions of these antecedent companies. It was all about One Peraton. Right. So right off the bat, we focused on that and rallied the team to really embrace that. And then in terms of systems, I think one of the great things about coming together is that we get choices of the different systems and get to pick from the litter which one is the best to carry us forward as a much larger corporation. And so we did some gap analysis, did some trace studies, and coming out of that selected the tool set that would be best suited for our needs. And then from a contracts perspective, that has been quite enlightening because we have novations involved, we have to get contracts signed over, and it's a lot of customer management. So that piece we're still finishing up. Some of the novation actions take quite a bit of time to complete through, and so we're still working to finish that project.
Well, let's flip over a little bit. You talked about how you feel that your program is pretty mature, your contracts operation. So let's talk about which is a critical piece for federal agencies, which is that risk and compliance. And how do you manage that at Peraton, and how do you feel the maturity of your team and your technology has helped you do that?
Because we have robust standard operating procedures, policies, we've made it part of our, what I'll call muscle memory, part of our operating business rhythm to ensure that the risk and compliance piece is a natural inherent part so that it's not a second afterthought or a bolted on thought. So from that standpoint, we really cover off risk and compliance, and then of course there's tools that help us produce data that enables us to make smart, emotionless, basically objective decisions that really drive the business. But for us here, what is really remarkable to me, and I can't help but being so proud when I talk about them, is the contracts team. The men and women that make up the team. They have a deep passion for the mission, for business outcomes. And so when we bring together the formula of a team that is so deeply passionate about what they do with the core processes, policies that that account for the risk and compliance, I think we've really achieved, if not at best in class, soon, just on the sphere of that. And I think that really, that litmus test really happened in the past couple of years with some unprecedented events.
And no sleep.
No sleep, absolutely no sleep. 2020 into 2021 with the unprecedented pandemic, it sent things in the federal contracting space topsy-turvy. And because Peraton's part of the industrial base, I mean, what we do is mission critical. Failure is not an option. And therefore, our contracts team, we work shoulder to shoulder, internally with our programs, externally with our customers, to make sure that our missions continued. Right. And that that really did require, as you said, Vanessa, no sleep in many cases.
Well, at least if you were working at home, sometimes you could just like stumble around in your, flippers.
Yes.
Kind of tidy up your hair and get back on the meeting, right?
That's right, that's right.
Well, you mentioned something in that last thing about team, and I know I've heard you and read about you talking about how team is it's so important to you,
yes.
But also being part of the team and getting in there and rolling your sleeves up. Can you talk about that and how that's part of like your own personal DNA?
Mm-hmm. I love to talk about team, and my team, I don't know if they love to hear me talk about team, but I talk about team a lot. And what I say is that it takes a team to win a championship. And I'm not a huge sports person, but using a sports analogy, even sports with individual athletes, behind that athlete, there's a team of folks that ensures that they're top notch to go win that championship, from coaches, nutritionists, doctors, so on and so forth, right, down to the equipment selection. And so from the mindset of it takes a team to win a championship, that's how I view and how I lead at Peraton. It's about bringing a team together, harnessing diversity of thought, diversity of background, and figuring out how to fit all that together to have a winning approach moving forward. And so when I think about that too, and put myself in somewhat of a head coach position, it's my responsibility, in addition to being open to the diversity of thought and background, to also provide constructive and honest feedback where we're doing great things, not so great things, and always be supportive in terms of, we're always going to have areas that may not have been perfect. And when those do happen, is to really be supportive, rally around, provide the proper training, provide the proper tools, and the proper environment for my team to do a great job as a part of this overall Peraton.
Right. Coaching but caring.
Yes, exactly. Tough love is what I tell my team. Tough love.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, but I'm
Okay.
going to come back and talk a little bit more about that idea of diversity.
Okay.
So I'm here today with Sue Yang. She is the Peraton Chief Contracts Officer. And we'll be right back to continue our conversation.